Montreal residents will soon feel the effects of the city's highest property tax increase in years. Mayor Valerie Plante released the city's nearly $7 billion budget for 2024 that includes an average tax hike of 4.9% for residential property owners. Commercial property owners will see an increase of 4.6%. Plante says that Canadian cities are facing unprecedented challenges linked to inflation and climate change. Joining us now to discuss the tax hike in Montreal is Nicolas Gagnon, Quebec Director for the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Nicolas, thank you very much for joining us on Forum Daily.
Thank you to you for your invitation.
What was your initial reaction to the nearly 5% property tax increase in Montreal?
Well, I have to say I was quite surprised and disappointed at the same time because it was not what we were supposed to see at first. A month ago, the city of Montreal presented an economic update where they would say that they would engage into reducing their expenses and avoiding forcing a tax hike on the taxpayers in Montreal, such as the one that we have just seen last week. So there's been quite a change in their narrative, but what we know for sure is that taxpayers right now in Montreal are already having a hard time, and this increase of taxes, 4.9% is going to have an increase that people were not expecting and didn't need at this point. As we know in Quebec, 1 out of 10 Quebecers are currently lining up in front of food banks, and that reality is very well present in Montreal. We have people that are having a hard time
Mhm.
finding an apartment and paying for their mortgage. So this tax hike could not have come to the worst moment for them.
Now, one of the mayor's justifications is she's argued that cities are facing unprecedented challenges. Are other cities across the province or in Canada increasing property taxes like Montreal is?
Well, as for now, we only know that most cities in Quebec will follow a similar path. We know, for example, the city of Laval, that is just north of Montreal, will also offer to their taxpayers a similar tax hike. We have seen a very important tax hike in other cities like Vancouver and Toronto over the last year, but for now, we don't exactly know if they will present a similar situation. But what is happening in Montreal is not exactly happening in the rest of the country. For example, Montreal is the city where there's been the lowest amount of new construction site that has been started on the first quarter of this year. Actually, Montreal is the city with the lowest amount of new construction in all of the country if you compare it to Vancouver and Toronto. So, in terms of taxes, maybe there will be a similar tax hike in other cities, but the problem with Montreal is far greater. And when the Valérie Plante administration comes with this excuse that the cities around the country are facing similar challenges, it's true that we're all facing challenges, but the biggest challenge of Montreal is to actually manage their budget and properly focus on taxpayers' interests, which is not the current case at the moment. And that being said, we all understand that climate change is a very important issue, but Montreal definitely has other issues as well. Fixing our potholes,
Mhm.
fixing our roads, making sure that people have access, can actually walk in the street at night without the fearing of being attacked. Those are the things that mayors and city administration should actually focus on more.
And I mean, what are some of the major issues that you see coming from this tax hike?
Well, the major issue that as I told you, is that we already have enough problem with the new construction that are not happening in Montreal. We have people that are having a hard time finding a rental or finding a house to live in. And now we have also the
Mhm.
people that are having a hard time putting food on the table. This tax hike represent approximately by household over $227 that people didn't have in the first place. So that will only squeeze them. This will only affect their ability to pay for other bills, and in the end, yes, it will kick people out of Montreal. It has been the case over the last couple of years. The last great tax hike that we had, such as this one, was in 2022. Literally last year, we had a tax hike of 4.1%. So it's a 9% tax increase over 2 years. People in Montreal are already having a hard time, and this tax hike is certainly not going to make things better for them.
We have about 40 seconds left. Part of the other side of the equation here is reducing government spending. What could or should the city cut spending on?
Well, a good thing that the city of Montreal should do at this point is to not announce a $12 million investment in winter city biking lane as they just did on the same day that they announced a budget and a tax hike as they did. Also, they are announcing a lot of different projects such as the redesign of the street Camillien Hood, which is going to cost taxpayers $92 million. This is something that taxpayers didn't ask for. They will have to pay for it, and we know that the budget has not the money for it. So really, it's all a matter of focus and finding the proper priority of the city. And right now, the administration plan is not focusing on the right issues. So that would be the best way for them. Cut back on those expenses that are not necessary, that are not requested by taxpayers, and focus on your main priorities.
Thank you very much for your time today.
You're welcome, sir.